Sunday lunch was a habit more than a pleasure. It happened at the same table, with the same chipped bowl of olives and the same arrangement of chairs that no one questioned anymore. We performed it the way families do when repetition has replaced intimacy. I arrived on time. I always did. My sister arrived late, breathless, apologetic in a way that expected absolution. Her son slid into his seat and immediately began narrating the room, pointing out who had brought dessert, who had gained weight, who was sitting in whose chair. I had learned long ago that the safest posture at these lunches was pleasant neutrality. Smile when spoken to. Laugh lightly. Don't correct anyone unless correction was invited, which it never was. We were halfway through the main course when it happened. My nephew stood on his chair, pointed at me with theatrical confidence and said, "Mom says you're selfish." There was a beat, then laughter. Actual clapping, from an uncle who mistook cruelty for wit, from a cousin who followed cues well. My sister laughed loudest, already mid-performance, hand to chest, eyes sparkling like this was all very clever. I didn't look at the child, I looked at her. She was enjoying herself. That was the part that mattered. I felt the familiar tightening in my chest, the reflex to swallow it, to make a joke of my own, to protect the rhythm of the meal. That reflex had been trained carefully over years. It had saved me trouble. It had cost me honesty. Instead, I smiled. Not tightly, not sarcastically, just a normal smile, the kind that suggests agreement or at least tolerance. "Well," I said, calmly, "then she won't miss the $6,000 I deposit for her every month." The sentence fell into the room and stayed there. My sister froze mid-laugh. Her mouth was still open. Her eyes widened, not dramatically, but enough to register calculation. The sound stopped abruptly, like someone had reached over and turned off the music. Someone cleared their throat. Someone else reached for a glass and knocked it over. My nephew sat back down, suddenly aware that something had shifted beyond his understanding. I didn't elaborate. I didn't look around for approval or shock. I took a sip of water and waited. The silence did the rest. For years, I had paid without comment. A standing transfer set up after her divorce, justified as temporary, extended because it was easier than revisiting the conversation. I never framed it as generosity. I framed it as responsibility. I earned more. She struggled more. That was the story I told myself, and it kept things simple. What I hadn't accounted for was how quickly invisibility curdles into contempt. My sister recovered first. "That's not," she began, then stopped. Her eyes flicked to our mother, then back to me. "You don't have to say things like that." "I didn't say anything untrue," I replied. My voice surprised me with its steadiness. An aunt leaned forward. "6,000 a month?" she asked, softly, as if testing the shape of the number. I nodded. "Once." That was all. No one clapped now. No one laughed. The table had become a place of inventory, of mental math, of quiet reassessment. People who had never asked how my sister managed so comfortably were suddenly recalculating their assumptions. My sister pushed her chair back slightly, as if creating space might restore control. "We didn't need to bring finances into this," she said. I looked at her then, really looked. "You brought character into it," I said. "I brought facts." That was the last direct exchange between us that afternoon. The rest unfolded in fragments. Someone suggested dessert early. Conversation restarted in small, cautious clusters. My nephew avoided my gaze. My sister didn't look at me again. When lunch ended, I helped clear plates as I always had. No one stopped me. No one thanked me either. The performance had ended. The set was being dismantled. The calls began that evening. My mother first, her voice tight with concern disguised as balance. "You embarrassed her," she said. "That wasn't kind." "I wasn't unkind," I replied. "I was accurate." A pause. Then more carefully. "That amount correct, Wes." Another pause, longer this time. The recalibration was audible. My sister didn't call. She texted 2 days later. "We need to talk about what you said." I agreed. Not immediately. Not urgently. We met a week later at a cafe halfway between our homes, neutral ground. She arrived composed, a stack of grievances prepared. She spoke first, about boundaries, about family respect, about how money shouldn't be used as leverage. "I never used it as leverage," I said. "I used it as support. You used me as a punchline." Her face tightened. "It was a joke. It was a verdict," I said. "Delivered through your child." That landed harder than the number had. She accused me of holding resentment. I admitted I did. Not loudly, not defensively. Just as a fact. What happens now? She asked finally. I took a breath. This was the part I had rehearsed quietly for years without admitting it to myself. Now, I said, we make it formal or we stop. I won't subsidize contempt. Her eyes filled, not with tears, exactly, but with something like loss. Not of money alone. Of a story she'd been telling herself. We formalized it. A reduced amount, a timeline, clear terms. She signed because she had to, not because she wanted to. Sunday lunch resumed a month later. The seating was different. The jokes were fewer. My nephew didn't perform. My sister was polite in a brittle way that suggested effort. No one mentioned money. No one mentioned selfishness. I noticed something else instead: how my shoulders stayed relaxed. How I didn't scan the room for danger. How being seen, even uncomfortably, felt lighter than being invisible. There was no victory. No apology worth naming. Just a shift. I ate. I spoke when I had something to say. I left when I was ready. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I owed anyone dessert.